The night rolled in like a silent witness, thick with rain clouds and a cold wind that made the ranch creak like it was alive. Ethan Carter stood at the edge of his porch, arms crossed, eyes trained on the road beyond the fence line. He counted every car that passed, not because he was paranoid, but because paranoia had kept him alive once, and he still trusted it more than people. He had left the CID 2 years ago, hoping the quiet might fix the broken parts of him. But peace was never his destiny. Not after everything he'd seen. Not after everything he'd done. The HOA complaints had started small. A noise warning. Improper storage. Grass too tall. The kind of petty warfare that suburban tyrants used to feel powerful. Ethan ignored them all. But Karen Delmont, the woman everyone called HOA Karen, behind her back, wasn't content with paperwork. She watched him. She studied him. And eventually, she became certain he was hiding something inside the old barn on the edge of his property. Something illegal. Something dangerous. She wasn't entirely wrong. Inside that barn was the one secret Ethan hadn't been able to bury. Her name was Maya Loran. Beautiful. Sharp. Unpredictable. An undercover informant whose last operation had gone bad, very bad. She knew things that powerful people wanted buried, and Ethan owed her his life. So he had taken her in. Hidden her away. Not because it was the right thing to do, but because he couldn't stand to lose her too. Some nights, when she thought he was asleep, Ethan would hear her crying softly. Other nights, he'd hear her on the phone, whispering to contacts, chasing ghosts. The deeper he got involved, the more he realized he wasn't just hiding a witness. He was falling in love with a woman whose world was built on darkness and danger. But he didn't care. Even broken things deserved to be protected. But Karen wouldn't let go. She filed reports with the HOA, then with the sheriff's office. She claimed Ethan was trafficking stolen goods, maybe even people. When the sheriff found nothing, Karen did what HOA tyrants always do, she took matters into her own hands. She hired a private patrol company to inspect the barn. Only they weren't inspectors. Ethan recognized the kind of men she sent. Hired muscle. Discreet. Armed. The kind of men who disappear jobs like Maya. That was the moment Ethan stopped waiting for trouble. He invited it. He called an old contact, Sheriff Doyle. A man who trusted Ethan more than the law did. And together they set a trap. Maya stayed hidden in the loft while the sheriff's car rolled onto the property under cover of darkness. The barn door stayed open. A single lantern was lit inside. The kind of sight that invited curiosity, and bad decisions. Now, as thunder crawled across the sky, Ethan stood quietly beside the barn wall. Sheriff Doyle waited inside, gun drawn, voice steady. Maya stayed in the loft, staring down with wide eyes she tried to hide behind strength. Ethan didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Because he knew one thing for certain. They would come tonight. And tonight, the house wouldn't just watch them, the engines cut before the tires even touched the gravel. That was the first sign that these men weren't here for rules or regulations. They were here for silence. 5 seconds later the barn swallowed their footsteps, one by one, until the only sounds were the hum of the lantern and the tick of the rain on the tin roof. Ethan watched from the shadows outside, leaning against the wooden wall like a ghost tied to the land. Sheriff Doyle was inside, hidden behind stacks of hay, calm as a rifle sight. Maya was above in the loft, lying flat on her stomach with her pulse thrumming like a warning drum. She knew their kind. She'd once worked with men like them. She had also seen what they did to people who got in the way. 3 men. Tactical gear but no insignias. The first had a limp, but his grip on the rifle was steady. The second scanned the entire barn in seconds like a predator memorizing new territory. The last one lingered at the doorway. He didn't enter. He listened. That was how Ethan knew he was their leader. The quiet ones always were. The sheriff let them take their steps deeper inside before stepping out from behind the hay bales. His shotgun didn't need an introduction. One single click was enough to freeze the air solid. The mercenaries didn't panic, but they did stop breathing. The leader's hand hovered near his vest. "Evening," Sheriff Doyle said. His voice was calm, southern, and carved from old law. "You boys must be lost. HOA inspections usually don't bring assault rifles." The one with the limp muttered, "We have permission." Doyle raised one eyebrow. "From who?" "God." Outside, Ethan walked toward the door. He didn't rush. He didn't need to. The leader finally turned his head, and Ethan saw it in his eyes, the realization that this job wasn't as simple as they'd been promised. Then Ethan saw something worse. Recognition. One of them knew him. That meant someone had done their homework. Maya's voice whispered from above in Ethan's earpiece. 2 more waiting outside. Unmarked SUV. Windows tinted. They're not moving yet. That changed everything. Ethan entered slowly, hands visible. The sheriff kept the gun trained. The leader smirked. You're hiding something. HOA Karen told us all about you. Ethan stopped in the center of the barn and stared at them, one by one. She told you I was hiding something, he said quietly. She didn't tell you who was waiting for you. A moment later, tires rolled on gravel again. But this time it wasn't silent. Red and blue reflections spilled across the barn walls like stained glass from a fallen church. 2 more sheriff cruisers arrived. The mercenaries stiffened. Their exit had just been sealed shut. Maya crawled forward in the loft, her shadow stretching across the barn floor just enough to catch Ethan's eye. He glanced up at her, only for a second. But that second carried a lifetime. She wasn't afraid. Not anymore. She trusted him. The sheriff gave his warning. Put the guns down. They didn't. The storm answered instead. Thunder cracked like a rifle shot, the air after gunfire always tasted like metal. The mercenaries were disarmed, detained, and taken away, 2 in handcuffs, 1 in an ambulance. The others out by the SUV had frozen at the sight of the sheriff's badge and knew better than to start a firefight. But even as the cruisers rolled away, Ethan felt no victory. Only suspicion. If Karen had gone this far, it meant she wasn't the real problem. She was a messenger. A curious puppet. And puppets always have hands above them. Inside the barn, the storm faded, but tension did not. Maya descended from the loft, every step slow and measured, like she wasn't walking but calculating. Doyle watched her closely. He trusted Ethan, but Maya? To him, she was a locked door with a ticking sound behind it. She didn't thank anyone. Didn't apologize. She simply stood beside Ethan, close enough to feel safe, far enough to stay untouchable. Her eyes lingered on the barn floor where one of the mercenaries had dropped his weapon. She looked at Ethan. They weren't here to kill me, she said softly. They were here to take me alive. Ethan nodded once. That's what I'm afraid of. Sheriff Doyle stepped forward. Karen's being taken in for questioning. She'll talk. One way or another. I want both of you to stay put until. He stopped when he saw Ethan's face. That CID stare, the one that didn't wait for permission. You're not staying here, are you? The sheriff asked, more statement than question. Ethan's answer was silence. Maya stepped closer, her voice barely above the sound of the wind. Ethan, there's something you need to know. Before tonight, I sent a message. To someone I used to work with. Someone I thought I could trust. She hesitated, and that hesitation said more than words ever could. He knows I'm here. And if he's coming, he won't use mercenaries. He'll use everything. Doyle's jaw clenched. Who is he? Maya met his eyes. The reason I ran. The reason I hide. The reason people die when they stand next to me. For the first time since the break-in began, the sheriff looked uneasy. Ethan didn't. His expression didn't change. But something shifted in his eyes, a quiet rage. Not fear for himself. Fear for her. That was when Doyle finally understood the real danger. This wasn't just a witness under protection. This was love trying to outrun its own executioner. Minutes later, after Doyle drove off, Ethan and Maya stood alone under the barn's weak lantern light. The rain was slowing. But Maya wasn't. She walked to him, slow, nervous. Like the world might end if she got too close. Why are you doing this? She asked him. You should have walked away a long time ago. Ethan looked at her the way only a man broken by duty and healed by love could. Because I was trained to protect what matters. And you, he lifted her chin with one cautious hand. You matter more than anything that ever tried to kill me. Her breath caught. Her eyes softened. She didn't cry this time. She kissed him like the world was ending, and hoped it wasn't. But outside the barn, in the wet gravel of the road, a single fresh footprint faced their direction.